My name is William LeBaron, and we've got Louis Zitting on the call as well. Louis, if you want to introduce yourself. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
everyone.
Louis Zitting. I'm the CEO and founder of MonitorBase. Um, Started it back in 2007. So, we've been through some fun cycles like we're going through right now. And I'm just really excited to start doing this monthly coaching. I think there's so much that we can help, um, help originators with and help company admins. Um, and it's simple. It's simple things. We do so much on the data side. We just, you know, we're just really excited to start putting some coaching to it as well to help, figure out what do we do with this, or help you figure out what do you do with these analytics.
Yeah, and we'll jump in, guys, here. I'll just let people in as they join. The whole idea of why we're getting together on this call, like why are we doing a MonitorBase group coaching call? And this is the first one that you guys got the email. We had, I don't know, almost 50 people register. So we're excited to see who shows up and see who we can help. But there are times when, you have the right systems in place, you've got a tool, you've got a platform, but we only extended this to users. So you're all using the MonitorBase platform, but not everyone has had, similar experiences as far as years of experience using the system. Some of you are new and some of you have been here for a while. Some of you have used all the tools. Some of you have only used the inquiry alerts or maybe the soft pull tool. And so our goal is to help equalize some of that and give you a platform where you can show up. We're going to help train you and give you, specific strategies that are working in today's market, specific techniques that we're seeing are performing really well, help you with best practices, give you a chance to ask questions so that we can address those toward the end and help you further, develop your skills. But it's like, if you're using MonitorBase and you're hitting a roadblock, this call is to help us overcome that roadblock and help you really build a habit or build a system around our platform so that you can have consistent and ongoing success. And this is really important. It's like, how many of you guys on the call are looking for more ways to get more business? Because like right now, today's marketplace, that's what we're struggling with more than just about anything. There's just, there's an inventory shortage, and that inventory shortage is causing us to have not enough home buyers that can qualify. If houses were more affordable, that would solve some issues. But ultimately, it's like, how do we get more deals in the pipeline? And that's the focus that, like, when Louis and I meet almost on a daily basis, it ends up being the thing that we come back to. It's like, how do we get our users another deal or another couple deals this month? Like, how do we help them? And we decided one of the best ways we can do that is get a group together and coach you guys through what opportunities there are. So I want you guys, if you guys are on your phone, you can probably minimize this, but I want you to pull out your phone and look in your contacts. I have an iPhone. I have no idea how to do this in an Android. But if you look in your contacts, which I just pull up the contacts app, I can scroll down to the very bottom of my contacts and I can see that I have 896 phone contacts in my phone. That's probably too bright to see, but 896. That means that there are, right now in today's marketplace, 1% of my of really any database is starting the loan process each month. Getting a new loan each month is really what it ends up being. So if I have 896 contacts, that means I have nearly 9 people every single month out of my phone contacts that's starting a mortgage, that is buying a home, is refinancing, is selling their current home and buying a new home. They're doing something with a mortgage transaction. And most of you have at least that many contacts, if not more. And, those contacts might already be in your CRM and might already be in your MonitorBase account. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important to recognize the scope of what we're trying to capture as far as opportunity. MonitorBase isn't just about, hey, we're going to try and help you find one extra deal every couple of months. And a lot of people, that's all that they end up really doing with it, is every so often they get a phone call from our system sending a letter to someone. But the truth is, for every month that I have a MonitorBase account running, 9 people that I know and trust that are saved in my phone, that if they called me, I would recognize and answer the call or respond to a text message. 9 of those people are starting the loan process with someone. And most of the time it's with someone else. And so it's this kind of crazy, I think, crazy high statistic And any of you that are getting monitor-based alerts, I think you're seeing it. These are people that are starting the loan process and they're going elsewhere. And if you can start intercepting more of those opportunities, because 9 loans, like I think 9 loans a month would really change any of our businesses, right? Like that's not an insubstantial amount of opportunity. And it's already happening. So it's like, how do we start steering more of those back into our own pipelines? How do we capture those? So I wanted to start with that. If you haven't looked in your MonitorBase account to determine how many contacts you have, it's worth looking at that and saying, are all the people here that should be here? Because even if you're just getting credit triggers, there's a lot happening there. You're probably only capturing a small percentage of those opportunities.
Well, and also, you've got your past contacts, but there's, we want you to think beyond your past funded loans because we can monitor anybody that you got, email, phone number for. So think of contacts of your referral partners. Just having that connection to the person makes your engagement rate like 5 times what it would be with a stranger or some consumer direct marketing campaign. So, if you can mention an agent's name on the first call, then it increases that trust in the consumer's mind versus a stranger calling them to talk about a mortgage. So,
well, and it's like, all right, guys, one of the biggest bottlenecks is finding more deals. And what we can actually do is give you, these are the people that are in need of your services right this very moment, right? And that's really the power of what we're talking about. Because if you're short clients and you have a database of relationships and contacts, we can narrow that database down to just the 1% that need your services right now. And you can ignore the other 95%, 99% of that list and just focus on the 1%. And that's where you're going to get the very highest return on your time. And it's where you're going to get the very best return on your dollar. Because we all know like things are tight and no one has a budget to go out and spend $1,000 or $2,000 on online leads to try and find one extra deal. But this is a very different approach. It's a couple of bucks to find someone that knows and trusts you already who needs your services right now. And that's the mindset we want to approach this with. So the very first thing, guys, if you haven't looked in your account to identify, do I have the people in my account that should be there? Am I missing some of my database? That's really the first place to start, because if you're using the most minimum version of our tool, the first thing to do to get more results and more opportunity is make sure that you're monitoring the right set of people. And that is easy and simple. And, you only pay, most of you, a couple of dollars per alert, and some of your companies pay for these anyway, so you're not paying anything. It's really cheap to get those couple, maybe 5 extra opportunities this month. And that's 5 people that need a loan that already know you. But from there, once you actually have the data in the system and you're getting the alerts, I'm actually going to do a quick unofficial poll. How many of you can do a quick hand raise? I think there's a hand raise button at the bottom. How many of you are familiar with the letter and the email that we send out? So far, I've got one hand up. And so a lot of you just rely on us to send you, thank you, Eric. I'm glad you know. But, we send out that alert. Hey, Fern, Louis just had his credit pulled for a mortgage. We are also sending Louis a letter or an email. Sometimes they get both, that lets Louis know that he's been credit pre-qualified for a mortgage. And, you'll get phone calls off of that letter. In fact, if we send out 20 of those letters, one person should call you to talk to you about the letter. That's kind of the statistic that we see over time. So the letters get opportunity to you. And if you do nothing else, if you just ignore our system completely and you answer the phone, sometimes you'll usually close a couple of loans every year. And it's more than enough to make the service worth it. But for every one client that calls you off of that letter, for every one, there's 19 that are actually out here. They're working with someone else. They're having the conversation about a mortgage. They're going through that process and they're not responding. And I think I want you guys to look at that as, I need to capture more than 1 out of 19. I want to capture maybe 3 or 4 or 5 out of the 19. And with the inquiry alert, that's not too hard to do out of your own relationships. I'm going to cover it, a little bit later. We're going to talk about, Louis will talk about the predictive alert and some of the tools that are built into that, and you'll see how that can help you capture more than that. But if you're looking at the amount of opportunity that you need to sustain yourself in kind of, our shrinking market, our smaller market, capturing an extra couple deals a month is really all it takes to make that difference. And we're giving you, if you have those, I have my 900 contacts in my phone, 9 opportunities a month are happening every single month out of that list. 9 people who need a mortgage who already know me and trust me. And I want to focus, like, if you're just relying on the letter, that's not going to be enough to capture more than the 1 out of 20. Every other month, someone is going to call me off of that letter. And that's it. That's all I'm going to get out of the system. But if I'm willing to pick up the phone and call, pick up the phone and send a text message, or send a quick email, connect with them on social media, do something that engages them in a conversation, that's going to go a really, really long way. You should get about 3 to 4 times the result you get out of just the letter, out of just a little bit of individualized outreach. I'm going to do another quick poll. How many of you have called on one of those alerts and had someone say, no, thanks, I'm good, I appreciate your time, I'm good to, I'm taken care of, you're too late, basically. It's like, have you had that phone call where someone actually just tells you, that they answer, you connect, they're a past customer, but they tell you, no, thank you, I'm having the success that I need elsewhere. And everybody. And if you haven't had that, it's because you haven't called someone. You just haven't called and connected with someone on these alerts. So the reason I bring this up is a lot of loan officers at that point think, shoot, I was too late, I missed the opportunity, and they write that customer off as gone forever. And it's a huge mistake, because if you wait 3 weeks and you call that person again and you say, Sterling, it's William, we just talked a couple of weeks ago, I know everything was going well at that time, I am just checking in to see and make sure that everything's still going great. How are things going with that mortgage? Are you being taken care of? There's a very good chance that things have changed in the past 3 weeks. How often do you have a conversation with a client, you're going through the process, and something goes downhill in the first couple of weeks of that loan? Job changes, discovering something on credit, discovering something new or different that you hadn't realized before that changes the circumstance. If this person is dealing with a bank or a credit union, or even just a neglectful loan officer, and they run into a barrier, that loan officer relies on the client to solve the problem completely. They're offering them no help, and the person is gone from feeling confident and well taken care of and like everything's going great. They've gone to feeling neglected and unsure they're going to be able to make this happen. And if there's someone else who knows them and trusts them, who's there to help them at that moment, you're going to save the deal. And it's going to be a good relationship building experience. And it's a good experience for the customer. And so I want to emphasize, when you're doing outreach, it shouldn't just be one point of outreach. And even if you get a no, these people are your contacts in your relationships anyway. So doing some additional follow-up, you can have confidence that even if you're just touching base, making sure everything's still going great, a couple of weeks later, 1, you're going to get deals that you didn't think were possible, that you thought were lost. But number 2, it's going to help the customer have a better experience. If they turned you down and you don't ever talk to them again, they can have this bad experience, but they're going to be afraid to call you back because they rejected you before, right? You reaching out and just being the professional that's there to help, that's there to consult. If things are still going great, that's fine. It wasn't that much work to make the phone call. But I want to emphasize the necessity of doing something, taking some action to reach out. And I promise you guys, it's not as hard as it looks. If you haven't seen them, we have playbooks in our knowledge base, and they give you exactly messaging designed for that specific alert. So if it's someone who just had their credit pulled for a mortgage, we have some scripts for that. If it's someone who's fixed their credit and now they're credit qualifying, we've got messaging for that. So we got the messages developed already. The scripts are all written, and you can follow those processes. So if you're not sure what to say, go to that knowledge base. It's going to be a great resource. But it's almost like a say something, say anything, do something to engage these people. And mostly I've been focusing on the credit trigger, which I think you guys all know what the inquiry alert is, right? It's like someone just had their credit pulled for a mortgage. But a lot fewer people are familiar with a predictive alert. And the reason we built predictive was because It's like, what's the number one problem with a credit trigger alert? Like, number one, 100%, this is the biggest problem. It's like that person's already working with another lender, right? I'm calling them one day too late. They're already starting the process. It's hard to win someone back. It's hard to talk someone into changing what they're doing to come over to me unless they're having a bad experience, unless I've built a strong relationship. And our predictive alert was built to try and get in front of and notify people. I'm sorry, get in front of and notify you of people before they have a credit pull for a mortgage. And that's really, I think, in the market that we're in today, if you're getting credit triggers, you're going to capture a couple of those back, but you're still going to have 10 opportunities. And if you get 2 or 3 of those to come back to you, you're winning the credit trigger game. The inquiry alerts, you're basically maximizing what you're going to get. You're going to have a hard time winning those other 7 out of 10. And those 7 out of 10 are people that know you that are getting a loan with someone else. And so predictive is an attempt to go out and say, we're going to head these off and we're going to get them sooner. We're going to catch them earlier. And we're going to do it in a way that is effective, that complements inquiry. Because, Louis, I think you've got some stats that are really relevant to this particular point about predictive.
Yeah. Yeah. So William kind of, started that off right of, how you should be thinking of predictive. Where the whole point is we want to be in that, 1-2 month period prior to the inquiry. I mean, if we could get better and better at this, then we give it to you a week before they go and apply with a competitor, right? So that's the whole goal. And, the more that, the more focus there is on triggers and, possible legislation of shutting some of that off or whatever that means in the future. Our focus has always been improving that predictive model because we don't want you to have to be competing with a competitor. We want you to get in front of them first. So let's dive into that. I think it's important for you guys to know kind of how that algorithm works, at least on a basic level. We won't go into a ton of detail, but the simplest way is to look at it like a lookalike model, but for each of those different predictive alert types or different loan products, to where, we have a fishbowl of the United States of all the deals that are happening every day. And we can see, say, for example, when a cash out happens, we can see what are the characteristics of that consumer just before that process starts. And then we, build our predictive alerts to target those profiles of people. Ends up being about the top 5% of your database each month we think is most likely to be in the market in the next 1 to 90 days, or in the next 1 to 90 day period. That's kind of the sweet spot that we're shooting for. And currently in this market, on average, 1 out of 10 of the predictive alerts do go and start a transaction in that 90-day period. So we can see of the ones that we deliver, how many go and do start a transaction. So, it's predictive. So it's obviously, it's not 1 out of 1 is in the market like an inquiry alert, but 1 out of 10 is much better than the 1 out of 100 that if you were to look at a random population, that's how many are in the market, right? One more quick little stat. The predictive alerts, for all we did a little study and looked at all the predictive alerts that happen in like February, all the inquiry alerts that happen in February. And then we went back the 3 months prior and found that we had or would have delivered on 75% of those a predictive alert to our users if those users all had predictive alerts on. So you could have been upstream of that consumer applying with a competitor on 75% of those triggers. So that's the whole point here is that engagement prior to that. So if predictive is kind of a pre-market alert, then your approach needs to be different than with an inquiry alert. With an inquiry alert, they're in the market mentally, and so you're calling out to kind of, insert yourself in there and say, hey, how can I be helpful as well? With predictive, it's different because, a lot of those you're going to call and at the moment, they're not going to be thinking about doing a transaction. They'll be like, no, no, thanks, I'm not interested. But the reality is that a high percentage of those are going to be the next couple months. So the approach, rather than saying, hey, can I help you with a mortgage, should be more just reconnecting with them, um, and inserting yourself into their minds, so that in the next couple months when that does pop up, then they'll reach out to you versus whatever their credit union says, or whatever offers come to them via email, right? Um, and you don't necessarily need to call those predictive alerts with some product offer that they can't refuse. And I think that's kind of the reluctance for people trying to call those, is that some people may not be in the market, or, you know, I don't know quite enough about this person besides their credit that I can call them with an offer that they're not going to say no to. But that's not the point here. You're not selling a product at the moment. You're just trying to reconnect with them and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm here. Just wanted to see kind of what your plans are, and focus on what you can give them in that initial call, so that you're calling to reconnect and give them something, right? Be the first to give. Um, so maybe that's, hey, let me know if you want me to do an AVM on your house, or I wanted to give you a little market update about what's going on in the neighborhood, some sort of insight. I mean, you guys have plenty of that kind of content that I'm sure that you can provide to them. But think about it like, when I call them, I'm not going to ask for something. I'm not going to ask for an app. I'm going to bring them something. Um, and then you're inserting yourselves in that conversation prior to them going and applying, right? And so we've actually seen that actually, the clients that are using predictive and inquiry are converting 2 to 3 times as many deals as on average than the people just using inquiry, because they're able to capture more of those before they're down the road. Okay, and then also, since we know that this is a 90-day period of prediction, once you reach out the first time, whether you get a hold of them or not, stay in touch over the next 90 days at least. And whatever that means for you, if it's set it in your CRM or in your calendar, make those touch points, because again, the data says they're at some point here in the next 90 days, they're really likely to say, hey, I need to talk to somebody about a mortgage, or I'm thinking about selling my house, or a first time buyer that their credit's improving, their debts are decreasing. And so, if you're in front of them and helpful and not pushy, then they're likely to give you a call and say, hey, yeah, I do have some questions. And make sure to use every channel you've got, right? So whatever you're most comfortable with, start with that, right? And if you can just get a habit formed of, hey, with these predictive alerts, I'm going to at least shoot them all an email to say, hey, I'm looking at your file, just wanted to reconnect. Let me know if you got a minute to chat, right? If they do or don't want to chat, you've still inserted yourself into the running for the deal that's likely coming in the future. If you can, shoot them a text, give them a call, connect with them on social media, whatever it can be, to where you're showing up in their life prior to that transaction happening. And then, yeah, set it as a habit. I mean, that's if the number one thing that we could teach you guys on this call about the system is just have a habit of doing a simple thing, whether that's, if a phone call is kind of, pushing it for you to call every single one of those alerts, set a habit of just shooting them all an email or a text if you've got authorization to do that. Because if you can just get a habit of doing that, that's when the numbers are going to stack up, and you're going to get more exponential kind of returns on how many deals that means, in the next 30 days, and then 60 days and 90 days. And it'll just fill your pipeline. So, I mean, that's really simply what I wanted to kind of, get you guys thinking about for this month, is what's a simple habit I can start doing with my predictive alerts that's going to 2 to 3 times my deals for MonitorBase. Um, and you don't need to, you don't need to call and ask for an app. It doesn't need to be a real salesy, pushy conversation. You just need to say, "Hey, how's it going? Just wanted to reconnect."
And that's perfect. It's our objective, guys, and this is the first call, right? Our plan that we've set this up is a monthly call. It's every month, the first Tuesday of the month at the same time. And our goal is to give you guys a platform where you guys get to ask questions, where you guys get to get new techniques. Because I can bring a top performing loan officer who used the system for years now to come in and say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing and this is what I'm achieving." And they'll give you a different angle. But not everyone is the same business model as that loan officer. And so I have a hard time being like, this is the one path forward. And our goal isn't to say this is the one and only path to succeed. There are lots of different ways that you can get success from the system. But if we can gather as a group, and we're just inviting all of our users, get you guys on a call and show you, hey, these are the resources that are available. This is what's possible. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Some of that, guys, is just accountability and reminder and helping you guys have a structure. Because if you do nothing from now until next month's call, but you show up to the call and we remind you of some things, I think you're going to be better off than if you didn't show up to the call at all. I think with some of that coaching, some of the accountability, some of the best practices, we're going to help even a top performing loan officer or someone who's not used the system at all go and get more results. And if that can mean a couple of extra deals for you this year, that to us is worth it. And so we're trying to create a platform where that's possible, where we can show up and support you, where you can ask questions, where we can give you the resources you need to have more success with our system. So if you guys have questions, we're open to those for the last few minutes here. But just a reminder, like, this is designed to be a monthly call. This is our first run at it. Next month, we're going to have a slightly different approach, new information, new tactics, new techniques. And our goal is to keep it fresh enough that you guys are getting value each additional call that you attend, but also as an accountability, as a check-in. Are you doing what you should be doing? Did you follow up on the systems we talked about last month? Is there more that can be done there? Did you run into a roadblock that you feel like is stopping you from accomplishing what we're talking about? And the goal is, if you have 1,000 contacts, how do we start capturing more of those 10 opportunities that are happening every single month that you're not aware of? And if you use MonitorBase right now, you see credit triggers every single month. People that you maybe forgot about, people that apparently forgot about you, and there's not a good reason for it. They should be working with you again. And we really want to solve that problem. We want to capture more of that, because if we can help even one person go out and get one more deal, it's worth the time that we spend on this call. So that's really our objective, guys, is give a platform where you guys can get the help you need, the support you need, the techniques. And after a couple of months, you're going to have a system built and a process built that you're going to be able to consistently succeed at MonitorBase. There's a huge amount of opportunity in your database. It really is unbelievable how much opportunity there is. And if we can help you start maximizing that and capturing more and more, your business will grow exponentially, because every new client you get means not only a loan today, but another loan in the future. And that's a really incredible thing. You're not restarting every single month. You're building something that actually turns into recurring business. So that's the mindset I want to leave you guys with. I haven't seen any questions come in, but if anyone wants to raise their hand, I'll let you chime in with a question. We're right here near the end of the time slot. But
yeah, and while we're waiting for any questions, please share with any of your other team members that use MonitorBase or any that might be struggling. We're going to do it monthly, and so just please share. I think it's going to be a format to where if they show up to the next one or the third one or the fourth one, we're still going to be able to provide value to them, even if they're a brand new person on your team, first time using MonitorBase.
The last thing here I'll share, guys, is we actually have a MonitorBase Insider Facebook group. And that's a place that you guys can get together and communicate with other people that are using MonitorBase, maybe that aren't inside of your organization. We're trying to foster and build that community, and I'll be monitoring that. So I'm helpful there if you guys have questions there. So feel free to go onto Facebook, search the MonitorBase Insider Facebook group, and you'll be able to join that group. And we're able to answer and help and address questions there if you have something that you don't want to wait until next month's call. But otherwise, guys, I was just going to wrap up, but it looks like Scott raised his hand. So Scott, I'll let you unmute yourself and go ahead with your question.
Yeah, not so much a question, just want to appreciate the time going through all this, but the data on those predictives, I guess um, that's just awesome to hear that the amount that go from predictive to taking action. I mean, that's kind of eye-opening to me. So that's just more of a comment, not so much a question, but just appreciate that data, and that's super helpful to know.
Yeah,
No,
no problem.
For sure. And it's crazy because it's like, if you don't call them and you don't engage them, you're hoping that the 1 out of 10 is the 1 in 20 that calls you. And so it's like, now you've got to get 200 predictive alerts before you get the phone call from the right person. And so it, perceptually, if you're just relying on our letter and our email, you're really missing such a huge percentage. And for us, like, we see, hey, we gave you a predictive alert and they turned into a loan application, but it was with another lender. And so to us, it's always painful. It's like, oh, there's so much that can be accomplished. And I hope, like, if we sound a little bit earnest and maybe it's like, we really are here trying to help.
Yeah, I mean, we can see the predictive that do go convert and which ones convert for our clients versus convert somewhere else. That's really what, that's really what started this idea of doing coaching call. Is we just need to say, hey, just try to engage and you're going to have so many more of these deals.
Yeah.
And make a habit of it.
And if you guys have a success this month, let us know on next month's call. We'd love to profile it. And that can be encouraging for other people who maybe are struggling. The collaboration, I think, is hugely valuable. And in today's market, it's like, what can we do to help the industry? Because the industry really is like, I mean, we're struggling as a whole industry. So to us, anything we can do to help, please let us know. We're excited. I appreciate everyone who registered for the call. We were surprised by the response, and we're excited we got the group as big as we did. And then we're just going to keep repeating this. And we have lots of top producing loan officers who use the system and have for years. I can get them to come on and address questions. I can get other resources, but it's like, we need a gathering place where we can then offer that to you, where we're not just like, spamming you with marketing emails all the time. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much for jumping on, and looking forward to meeting up next month.
Yeah. Thanks for joining, guys.
Talk soon.